What's up everybody, this is Ven bringing you another MOC Spotlight where we take apart what you build. For today's episode we'll be going over Zyrec, created and posted to our message boards by Bionic.T.B. What's the TB stand for? My guess is tuberculosis, but that's just me. And as per usual, before we get started, let me remind you of my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion. So let's get this started. Oh, look at this guy, so small and adorable. Immediately I can say that this is one of the more unique MOCs I've reviewed lately, but that's not just because of his size. No, this little guy can offer a little bit more to you than you would expect. Like, he's got a couple of features that I would say are both distinctive and creative, like the arms that could be converted into these blade arms. And it's funny because these, coupled with the wheel feet, kind of remind me of Sideswipe from the Transformer movies, which was actually a design that I personally enjoyed a lot. So it's nice to see that this guy is basically like Sideswipe Jr. going out for a stroll into my heart, because just call me Ronald McDonald because I'm loving it. Then we have the head design, which includes this little monocle attached to the side here, which is pretty neat because it's basically an upside down Bionicle mask. But with this little attachment, boom, brand new identity right there, folks. And then we have this sort of beaten up cloak that this midget wears on his back, putting the icing on the cake that is this whole rough and kind of steampunk sort of style that we have in terms of aesthetics. I don't really know how to better describe it, but we'll for sure be bringing this up again later. Now honestly, I do really like this design, but I did think of a couple of criticisms that I may have for it. And first of all, the colors look very monochromatic, like everything's all silver and gray, and then the cloak is like this light tan brown color, which would be fine if this MOC actually had some contrast in colors at all, but it kind of doesn't. And then there's the proportions where the head just seems a bit too big for the body, and then the arms seem a bit too short. And both of these aspects could be forgiven as a creative design choice, as overall the MOC has this sort of cartoony design to it. Because all in all, it's still a really cool character design with some much appreciated detail to it. And it looks like something I would expect to see in some kind of Pixar animation about some lone robot wandering the desert. Now, looks aside, he's also got quite a complex build for a little guy. Like, the usage of these smaller Technic elements is very creative, and I'm especially digging the construction of the arms and the legs, where the arms have this unique elbow articulation, and the legs just look very solid. And despite having these wheels attached to the feet, the MOC looks surprisingly stabilized with these legs, because it looks like these were designed to keep at least half of the MOC's weight off of the wheels, so that way this guy doesn't go rolling and flopping around like some kind of maniac on roller skates. And as a whole, this MOC just looks really fun to pose and play around with. It's got your standard points of articulation, offering a wide variety of poses that you can pull off with it. And I don't know, it's so simple yet not too simple, like there's still something to appreciate about it. And again, it looks really fun to play and mess around with, as opposed to, say, like a really huge MOC, where sure, you might still have the standard points of articulation all over the place, but how easy is it to pull off all of these poses without wrecking the MOC or having it fall over on its heavy weight? You know, like, I can't imagine that being as fun. So it's cool to see that this MOC takes full advantage of its size to make for a very good figure. And another thing, this MOC actually has a sort of play feature incorporated into it, where you can sort of attach this turbine onto its back. And though I'm not 100% sure what this is really meant for, I'm guessing it's supposed to make him look like he's about to take off, maybe fly to another area to go roam around, or I don't know. I guess it's just another thing to add to the MOC's character. And speaking of character, Bionic.T.B actually intended to build this as his own self-MOC. And for those unfamiliar with that term, it means you built something out of Lego to represent yourself as some sort of character or whatever that you fantasize about. And this guy fantasized himself as this sort of little scavenger robot guy. He specifically used the term scavenger to describe the aesthetic he was going for, and honestly, it couldn't be much more fitting. As I said earlier, the impression I got from this MOC was that it's this little robot just kind of wandering the desert. You know, that's the sort of image I came up with based on his design, and well, if it's some sort of scavenger, then that makes more sense, because then I can easily picture this guy wandering the desert, scavenging parts, doing all these sort of things, adventuring for means of survival. Kind of like the love baby of Mad Max and Wall-E, with the monocle for style. Heck, the monocle is probably some sort of like built-in telescope so that this guy could examine his surroundings, like a zoom lens, or maybe it's like a magnifying glass type of device that he can use to observe any small objects that he finds along the desert. See, I don't know, I really like it when a MOC has this sort of imaginative aspect to it. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be intentional, but really what it is the design of the MOC speaking for itself, and I find that makes this MOC very interesting. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. It's a small MOC, meaning we got a small episode, because really there's not much there for me to pick at. So let's move on to the scores and wrap this up, starting with the appearance, which I decree 4 out of 5. It's definitely not a bad MOC. I do really enjoy this design and all the little details thrown into it, and while the proportions do bug me a little bit, I can look past that. As far as the build goes, this MOC receives a 5 out of 5. No real complaints I can make here. I mean, it's a solid build, coupled with a decent range of posability, a little play feature, and a lot of creativity demonstrated through small Technic parts. And then in terms of the concept, this MOC receives a 4 out of 5. It's pretty clear to me that the MOC is fairly inspired and that the builder had some neat ideas thrown into it, but in the end I can't find myself giving too much credit because it doesn't seem that ambitious of a MOC. And that's not to say the builder didn't put any effort into this MOC, because he definitely did. He had some cool ideas and he pulled it off fairly well, but in the end it's a very small MOC that definitely has a good bit to offer, but nothing that really hits any high notes for me. So with all that said, we are left with a final score that all adds up to a 13 out of 15. Whoa, what's that? Such a high score for such a small MOC? Well, that just goes to show that size isn't everything, folks. As long as you've got an interesting design and you let your creativity shine, then you can still make a really great MOC. So great job, Bionic.T.B. Congrats for making it onto the MOC Spotlight, and I do hope to see more out of you. And same goes for you viewers. Please, I urge you all to consider, if you haven't already, posting to our message boards at board.tdvchannel.com, where you are more than welcome to share your own MOCs under the LEGO Creations category. And by doing so, you automatically earn yourself a very high possibility of being featured on the MOC Spotlight sometime in the future. So if this little guy can make it, you can too. So thank you for watching, eat your fruits and vegetables, and I'll see you all next time.